Well. Can we argue that the Flames were just doing the fans at the Saddledome a favor and giving them a reason to stay off the roads a little longer tonight? Maybe.
Yeah.
But no matter how they got there, it was scary in the end. It is a perfect 4-game homestand, the longest win streak right now in the National Hockey League, and Calgary has temporarily tied for first in the Pacific Division. And that was crazy. Like, Calgary was in full control. A late push sees Minnesota pick up its first almost late comeback of the season. They actually haven't come back from a deficit going into the third yet, but they take it to a shootout where Calgary takes it 4-3. I'm Cami. He's Kent. Thanks for joining us on Afterburner today, friends. And thank goodness the heat cranked up, because I fear we were in danger of getting a snoozer for a bit there.
Yeah, the first was, let's say, low event. Not a lot happening. And, the Flames are going to try to play that game as much as possible, because I think their top scoring forward right now is on pace for 49 points. So they're going to try to make it. It's never going to be sort of a race amongst thoroughbreds, right? They're going to try to slow it down as much as possible, and that's what they did.
It was really close to being clinical. I mean, if you're a big fan of defensive structure, then you'll take that all day long. But otherwise, it's not always fun to watch. But that late kind of collapse for Calgary kind of sours it a little bit. It's not a penalty you want to take. You don't want to see that late goal. There were certainly opportunities for Minnesota to take it in the end. They didn't capitalize, obviously, but this is also a tired team at the end of a road trip that found out right before the game that they weren't going to have their star player, who's a contender for the Hart. And I don't even know how many other trophies you want to throw in there. We could almost go through the full list.
Yeah, I thought, the Flames were kind of shelling pretty hard there in the last 10 minutes. They were 5 guys across the blue line. They were trapping in the neutral zone pretty hard. So, and I don't think they gave the Wild too much until that power play came around. It looked like that was working, and then they got enough out of that, and with the empty net, otherwise, I think without that power play goal, the Flames win this in regulation.
And that last goal from the Wild pretty much came as I wrote. Did I actually put in my notes? In a shocking twist, Calgary's special teams have garnered applause and success at the Saddledome. We were so close.
Yeah, it is what it is. But you're right. Like, their special teams have been better the last 4 or 5 games. Power play came in big today, which might be the first time I've said that this year. So there is generally some improvement on both.
Yeah, and I mean, the penalty kill had been so fantastic up until that Brock Faber power play goal with just under 4 minutes left to play. Up until that point, the stat came up where Calgary had allowed 1 shot on the penalty kill. And not only that, they got 2 power play goals of their own. It just goes to show that the team is doing well. It's been very tight, and you're not sure if they can keep that pace up, but things would just be so much easier for them. And think of where they could be if the power play was functioning at a more consistent pace.
Well, to be frank, they're way ahead where I think they were going to be anyways. So it's still pretty impressive given their record so far.
Do you want to start with the goals? Where are they? Are we getting enough? Or do you want to start with goaltending? What do you feel is more pertinent on this day?
It's hard not to talk about the Flames goaltending. Even though they gave up 3 today, it's that is the heart of their success so far this year. Last time I looked, they had the best even strength save percentage in the league, and it was over 944 or something, which is just crazy elite. Even just 20 games into a season or whatever they're at here now is. And I think they flashed the stat during the game where the Flames had gone 17 games or something with 3 or less goals, but they still have
18 now. It is now 18 games. We are not counting that 4-3 in the shootout. It does not count.
That's crazy, right? And to have a winning record, despite that, is as you say, they play a pretty strong defensive game relatively, but without that level of goaltending, you're probably bottom third of the league otherwise.
Oh, defense is at the heart of everything they do, even their offense. Two of the top three point getters for Calgary are defensive now.
That's right. Yeah.
Dan Vladar, this was a really important start for him. I know things are always a little bit weird with matinees, but this is his first start since November 12th. Dustin Wolf had the last three, and his last three starts had that Calder conversation really start boiling over. So I guess, first of all, if you can kind of put yourself in Dan Vladar's head, what do you think your mindset is coming into this game, knowing that Wolf has made the first serious pitch towards solidifying himself as the team starter if he hasn't actually done so already?
His mindset has to be he has to match Wolf at the very least, right? If he wants to be a starter for the Flames, which I assume every goalie wants, especially a young goalie trying to establish a career. Yeah, I mean that's a tall order, but I thought he played pretty well, all things considered, and has all year. And he's definitely having his best season in the NHL so far. So got the win. He's probably happy with that. Probably wasn't too happy giving up that tying goal at the end, but you know he probably played well enough to get back in the conversation. But with Wolf being, I think, one of the best goaltenders in the league last week, couple of weeks, I wouldn't be surprised if they go back to him.
So Vladar finishes the night with 20 saves on 23 shots. I mean, Minnesota really turned it up with the shots in the end there, 10 through the third period, only 3 in the second. And we know it is difficult for goalies when you're not getting a lot of touches on the puck and you're not seeing a lot of action. But he does end up with an .870 save percentage. So would you say he was tested enough in the end with a couple of big saves in overtime and the shootout to really move the needle back in his direction?
I don't think so. You know, given that stat line, and I think it's much more about what Wolf has done, his level of performance, and what he means to this organization moving forward. It was pretty much positioned that Wolf, if he performed, is going to become the starter for this team, and he has performed. As you said, he's now in the Calder Trophy conversation. I looked at it a couple weeks ago, and he was a 20 to 1 shot to win. Now he's a 7 to 1 shot. His resume is sparkling. He's kind of the heir apparent to the net, so it's going to be either Wolf has to play really badly, or Vladar has to be somehow better than Wolf, and I don't think that's going to happen. So right now, I think it's Dustin Wolf's net, but you know we'll see as things go.
We did see kind of a cool little moment between the two of them towards the end of the game, unfortunately, before those last two quick goals by Minnesota, where Vladar looked like he got maybe a little hurt getting run over, and you saw Vladar kind of, or pardon me, Wolf giving Vladar the tap saying, like, you're good, get back in there. And then there were like a couple little moments where, like, is he still feeling something? Did you see any element of that in his game in the late goings?
Not really. I didn't think any of the goals he gave up were bad ones. They were legit. The one shot from the point was through 7 layers of traffic and stuff. It's just one of those shots that finds the net. So I didn't see anything in his performance would suggest, you know, he was laboring or anything. So I think it's just a game where, you know, 3 pucks went in. They were legit or whatever it was. But yeah, I think he seems fine to me.
Just in the chat here, I see Mr. Public Pain. Can someone tell me the position of the Wild in the league, near the top, near the bottom? They are a very good team and a very good Central Division. They're 30 points, ranked second in the league, just behind the Jets, and they had a pretty monster plus 19 goal differential heading into the night. I'm not going to do that math off the top of my head because I feel like I'd be just like ripe for embarrassing myself there. But this was a very good team that they were facing tonight to close out this road trip, and maybe a tired version of that team, certainly the team that's missing their bona fide superstar. But
and
nonetheless, they had to come in and play the game and close it out.
Yeah, they played well. They definitely played well enough to win. As you said, like the Flames were the better team, maybe until the last 10 minutes when they were protecting the lead.
So let's just hit a little bit of a recap here. Just like we drew it up at the start, Kevin Rooney opens it up. Just the 11th first period goal of the season for Calgary, but a pretty picture perfect tip off of a Miramanov shot. That's Rooney's second of the season. And Kirkland, who would end up again playing a very big role today, picks up the secondary.
A little bit.
I think maybe like the last 4 or 5 games, he has been great. I know that we tend to look at that second pairing as just like a placeholder for the first young guy who's going to come up and be a good person to play alongside watching his game. And Rooney could have had a hat trick tonight.
I know.
Rooney could have had a hat trick tonight. The opportunities were there for him.
The fourth line was actually pretty good all around, which is, it's nice when you have, a energy unit, as you call it, but they spend most of their time in the offensive zone. That's a huge bonus.
Yeah, that was huge. And then the Wild would tie it up shortly after off of a turnover, a really gross turnover just outside the Flames blue line. It was Huberdeau trying to find Anderson. I don't know which one of them you will blame that on, but
so unlucky for Vladar in that one. But yeah, I put that one on Anderson. He's dipsy doodling through the neutral zone with one man back. It's just, that's shinny hockey stuff. Otherwise, good night for Anderson, but that was quite the mistake.
So it's just the broadcast sewering Huberdeau with the immediate close up on his face.
Well, he's a easy scapegoat all the time.
Yeah, a frustrating night again for him too. We can beat that missed empty net goal to death, but he had another prime opportunity on the doorstep tonight, and it just wasn't going in for him. We saw him punch the glass heading on to the Flames bench towards the end of the game, but okay, that one, not his fault.
No, we'll put that on number 4.
Yeah. Then second period, a power play goal appears. Cannot overstate how big this felt. There were just no shots. Nothing was happening, and it truly felt at that point that, it's going to be 2-1 the end. This is going to be the goal that finishes it, and it's Pospisil. Finally. Kadri finds him for a great redirection alone just in front of the paint. Anderson gets his secondary assist, but I know it's not been Pospisil's season, the follow-up that everyone wanted to see after being really vivacious for this squad last year, but I didn't realize that this was his first goal since the season opener.
Yeah, and he might be the only 1-goal scorer in the league who's on a power play unit. I was very surprised to see him out there, but good for him. Let's see if it gets him going again. There was a sequence in the third period that kind of summed up the player he has been this year relative to last year. For me, it was not much of a play, but puck got dumped into the offensive zone corner. He follows it in. Wild player gets it, and he kind of skates in with one hand on his stick, fishes for it, misses, drifts by the guy, and it's just like, whoa, where was that is the opposite of what you were last year. He was just a kamikaze chaos unit. He would get in there and make people's lives miserable, and it was just way too much of drive-bys like that this year for that player.
And I know a big conversation last year was whether Pospisil was taking things too far sometimes. We did see the league kind of like, can't do that, man. But I wonder if it is a personal choice to try to tone things down, or if it's something forced by injury or just instruction from the team where we've seen things change a little bit in his style of play.
It could be injury related. He's had a lot as a pro player, which is a concern. But on the other hand, if it is sort of him trying to find the line, Matthew Tkachuk had that through his first couple seasons too, where he definitely got in trouble with the team and with the league because he went over that line too much, right, with shenanigans and antics. And I think over time, as he progressed as a pro, he's kind of found how to ride that line a lot better. So right now, they need Pospisil to be a lot closer to the guy he was last year than the player he's been this year. That's for sure. Good goal. Let's see if it turns him around at all.
Well, I mean, if you want to talk about a guy who has turned it around, look no further than the person who put the team up 3-1. Again, like just going to show the importance of faceoffs, which have been a battle for Calgary this year. Sharon Govich wins a faceoff, drops back to the high slot, and Uyghur and Zeri are able to tee him up, and that's goals in back-to-back games for the
shot back in order. It looks like he's doing that, right? So it's I'd like to see him play more with Zeri, to tell you the truth. Maybe they'll do that on the power play a bit more, but those two players I think would be a really good match given how well Zeri gains the zone. He's a good puck distributor. He makes people miss, and then being able to feed to a trigger man like Sharangovich would be interesting.
I mean, if you're finding anything giving you a modicum of success on the man advantage, you need to stick with that right now. Absolutely.
Yes, I agree.
And look at where the shots were at that point, too. 23-13. That was where we're all like, all right, shut her down, head home. I'm writing down like all the talking points for this.
Yeah, this is over. Yeah.
Yeah. Weird. Funny how that happens. Yeah, wild, make it interesting late. Brock Faber posting in on the power play. Just outrageous goal. And then with Gustafsson pulled, Marco Rossi drives the net, and Minnesota ties the game with seconds left. Ugh. Did you think that Minnesota was going to score in overtime?
I kind of did. It felt like momentum was on their side in one of those games where you just kind of let it slip away. And for years, the Flames have been the team that let losses like that pile up. But no, it was pretty even. Actually, the Flames had maybe the best chance in overtime. Was that Sharangovich tip off the pass, and it's brilliant save by Gustafsson to keep him in it there.
Actually, I think we have the shot of it. A great feed from Anderson, but wow.
Yeah, that's a great blast.
What a tremendous
Wow, that was great. Yeah, Minnesota had a great chance at the other end too. Vladar was just totally at the other side of the net. It's a wide open cage, and the forward, I forget who it was, sorry, but he just caught the puck on his backhand and ended up passing, and it didn't turn into much, but it was like, oh.
Yeah, it was Rossi or Boldy,
how did you not?
Yeah, he should have just shoved it at the net, but I mean, good for the Flames, right?
Yeah. Takes us to the shootout, and Justin Kirkland scoring goals in bulk. Who would have thought he would have such an impact on this season, which I love. Like an underdog team especially, you got to have those like cult heroes like this.
Yeah, I think he'll be sticking around for a lot of the season here. He keeps scoring on that play. You just can't stop it.
Yeah, someone smarter than me told me that they think it's so successful because it's not quite a pump fake, but it's like that quick turn that forces the goaltender to shift right a little bit, and then that just gives him enough time and space to make it work. But then, we wouldn't end it until round 5, and then Rasmus Andersson, second shootout goal of the season, but alas, no Wild fans to give the old stare down to.
Yeah.
This season, he's looking for a sweater.
I don't know if you're going to find a Wild sweater in this city. There's some teams that, I hate to say it, definitely take over the dome when their side's here. Minnesota's
not one of them.
Have that concern.
No.
But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of what we saw in this game kind of goes back to questions about identity that we heard from the Flames this week. Like, this team is obviously very aware of how they've been viewed going into the season and really through the first quarter, no matter what amount of success they've had. Huska noted pregame that some teams have a tendency to revere or show too much respect for the opponent, but Calgary really doesn't do that. It doesn't matter if they're playing a bottom feeder team right now or if they're playing the New York Rangers. They are shooting everything and getting in the muck. And a lot of props goes to energy players like a Lomberg for that. And then you see Dan Vladar quoting where he refers to the Flames as just hungry bastards. I'd say they're not hyenas anymore. They are a wolf pack. Not to be too on the nose with that one, but hyenas are scavengers, and this is not a scavenging team right now. This is a team of predators.
What's interesting is like the last two games, especially they've outplayed two good teams, legitimately outplayed. There's been a lot of games earlier this year where they're hanging on and they get
I think
points in
Vegas and Utah
overtime.
were far and away their worst games of the year.
Yeah, but there's been other games where they were obviously like a plucky underdog, just hanging in with the other team, making it happen, getting some saves. But the last two games, they've legitimately deserved to win both of those. And those are legitimate opponents too. It's not, bottom feeders. It's, you know, wouldn't say contenders, although maybe the Rangers are in that conversation this year. And sometimes you get games like that as an underdog and the other goalie plays badly or you get bounces. And that didn't happen. The Flames outplayed both these teams and both goalies they were facing were good. Like Shesterkin was fantastic the other night. Probably the only reason Rangers were in it at all. So, and then Gustafson, I thought he was good tonight too. So, if the Flames can continue to have these kinds of performances moving forward, then it's an interesting conversation going through the rest of the year.
But again, like for me, still the concern is where are the goals?
Right.
Where are the goals? So much of the success is coming from what the defense is doing, even if the shots have been there. And today was a little bit of an aberration. If you go back through the rest of their recent games, like New York, 49 shots. Like, I know that like they've had a lot of, I think it's like their top 22 games are 50 shots or more, but you're right in that conversation. The Islanders, 31, Nashville, 33, Vancouver, 32. And still not a ton of goals there. Like Rasmus Anderson still leads the team in points, 13, tied for third in goals among all blue liners. Weegar's tied for second on the team in points. Zari's just the fifth Flame to hit double digits. This is a lot of, I think this is the 9th one-goal game. Is that sustainable for a team that wants to stay at the top of its division?
Probably not. Like I said, if you're not getting 944 goaltending at even strength, the record is very, very different. And I don't think, even with Wolf being the talent that he is, I don't think the Flames can keep that up for the whole season. That's a crazy number. So the big issue is you have guys like Andrei Kuzmenko, who has one goal and is pretty obviously in the doghouse. Not every so often he has a shift or a period, sometimes a whole game where you're like, oh, there's Kuzmenko. That's the guy we saw last year. And then he just, I think he was benched for a portion of this game as well. And you have Huberdeau, games like this or missing empty nets in the last game. I think Nazem Kadri's kind of, he had a good assist tonight, but he hasn't really been there, nowhere near the player he was last year so far this year. So you have a lot of the veterans up front who are making money, expect to be, scoring leaders on the team, really, really struggling. And it's kind of helped that you've seen Zary and Coronado kind of coming up through the ranks and playing well. But just in general, this team's not going to have enough offense, just given the way they're built, right? This is technically a rebuilding roster, especially if Kadri, Huberdeau, Kuzmenko are, producing like third and fourth liners.
A retool on the fly, if you will. Right. It's kind of what it looks like right now. And this isn't to dump on the team or anything. Like, absolutely, fans should celebrate and enjoy these wins and these entertaining games, especially. I think entertaining hockey at the end of the day is the number one thing that you should be wishing for. But it's just something to keep an eye on. Like, it just can't stay this way forever. I would be completely floored if it was. And to your point about Kuzmenko, the shifts were a little few and far between. They're getting a little bit shorter. He ended up with 13:47 of ice time tonight, which is it's his third. I don't know how to say this right. It was one of the games where he had the least amount of ice time ever. Only the Vegas game and the Devils game in early November saw him with less minutes, and those were games where he was staunchly benched to send a message, and this isn't that far off.
No, it's and I think the one goal he has this year was a deflection. He literally hasn't shot the puck in the net yet, which is for a former 30-plus goal scorer is pretty shocking. So Every so often you see that level of skill from him flash really briefly, and then every so often he cuts into the middle, makes a backhand drop pass to nobody through his legs when he should have shot it at the net or passed it to the guy breaking towards the net. So I'm sure that's where the coaching staff is sitting him down and going, shoot the puck, stop being cute. You've got one goal this year, right? Let's get serious.
With Arthas's comment in the chat here, Cami basically saying enjoy the win, but we won't achieve anything. I never refer to a team I cover as we, first of all. It's a huge pet peeve. But no, it's not that I don't think they can achieve anything. I think that they're a lot of fun to watch, but you can always aspire to more, and you need to be ready and able to adapt if you start to hit some bumps in the road and you aren't getting friendly bounces, because puck luck can turn on you in an instant there.
Well, for the Flames this year too, you definitely don't want to land in no man's land. You know what I mean? Like in terms of your record, you don't want to be 11th, picking 11th or picking 15th, right? Not only do you lose your draft pick in that, but either make the playoffs or be 10th or worse in the league.
Yeah.
Pick in the top 10 or make the playoffs. Do not finish 15th or something. That would be a disaster.
Oh man, that is quite a wide, mushy middle net that you're casting there.
That's the problem, right? So it's either you need more offense and make the playoffs, or once the goaltending is not super elite, if you're still scoring at this rate, your record's going to do that.
All right. We're going to take a quick break to hear from the Salvation Army, and when we get back, we're going to talk a pike bomb and get your take on the situation.
The Salvation Army's annual Christmas fundraising campaign kicks off November 26th at the Calgary TELUS Convention Center for a magical evening of hockey stories and memories from Ron McQuain. Don't miss this incredible and inspiring event. Proceeds and donations go to Salvation Army programs and services that support families and individuals that need some extra help here in Calgary, such as food services, seniors activities, Christmas assistance, summer camps, and so much more. Tickets are on sale now at hopecalgary.ca.
So this was the 21st game that has Calgary tied, at least temporarily, for first in the division. This officially marks a quarter of the way through the season for the Calgary Flames. Ryan Pike says, after 21 games, I have no idea what to make of this team. I mean, can we know, your greatest strength is looking at the big picture of this team?
Yeah.
So from a pretty good sample size now, what do you make of what this Calgary team is?
I think I've said a couple times, this is as good as this roster can play, if you ask me. Just on paper, this should not be on top of the Pacific. Huskin, the coaching staff, has them playing a pretty strong fundamental game. They're not losing a lot of games with bad mistakes. They have high energy. They're in every one of their games. But as we've discussed, without more stars, especially up front, without more offense, they're going to be limited to their upside. Maybe the defense and this team structure and the goaltending gets them close to the playoffs. They will not be a going concern in the playoffs, given what we've seen so far. But making the playoffs would be a kind of incredible feat in its own, just given the roster. It kind of feels like 2014 and 15 when they were supposed to be miserable and made the playoffs, right? And actually beat the Vancouver Canucks in the first round. But whereas that team was gliding on Johnny Gaudreau suddenly becoming a superstar, this one, maybe it's Wolf suddenly becoming a superstar. But it's been fun to watch. They're not there yet. I still don't think they'll be there for a few more years, but it'll be interesting to see if they can continue to be even in the playoff picture through the rest of the year.
When you have a goaltender like Wolf showing so much promise, you have a top four that has people talking about a second pairing defenseman potentially representing their country at Four Nations, all of these good things happening from the back end and so much structure. Is there any world where you would consider trying to add another high scorer up front?
I never say never when it comes to trades. Strange things happen, but I don't think the GM or the franchise should be deviating too much from a long-term plan this year, especially with you need superstars to be a contender in this league, and you need 5 or 6 stars on a roster to be a legit contender. And the Flames don't quite have that yet, and the only way they're going to get that is by following through on a long-term plan. If they make the playoffs while following through on that plan, good for them. That's awesome, right? But don't go out and start spending first-round picks to bolster this roster yet.
I know that we have some potential superstar defensemen in the system in junior still, coming up to the AHL on a more consistent basis soon. But do you see the makings of a star forward anywhere on the Flames roster right now, taking kind of the proven veterans out of the mix?
Right. It depends what you mean by star. Like there's no superstars in the making here at all, and I'm very bullish on Connor Zary and Matt Coronado and guys like that. And they have some guys in juniors right now who are having good seasons, but there's no blue chip. This guy's going to be a first line center almost guaranteed in the system whatsoever. You seem to have a lot of what you'd consider the supporting structure around a core player or players being built right now, but there's no Kaprizov, there's no McDavid, McKinnon, nothing like that, Panarin, nothing like that in the organization yet. And this is just the beginning of their transitional period. I didn't expect them to have that caliber of player in the system yet. So that's why I would be very hesitant to start spending assets to add for this roster, because I consider this a 5-year sort of build, and we're in year 1.
And Connor Zary, I think, has been the most creative, dynamic player to watch on the Flames this year. He's just got so much going for him. So again, it's not to like say that he's not going to be a good player, because he might not be a superstar. So I guess I struggle when I try to think of like comparables maybe, but if you look at a Ryan O'Reilly, would Ryan O'Reilly ever be classified as a superstar?
Maybe he was such a great two-way player, right? In his prime, like he was
Two-way and a little more grit in there. I wonder if that might be kind of what you aim for, or what success would look like for him.
Potentially, yeah. Like Zary looks like a second line center on a contender for me in his prime. You know, a guy can do probably 60 plus points a year, be competent two-way. I think that's kind of his ceiling, which is a great player to have. But they're looking for that 100-point top line player here soon.
Oh, I think he tops out at higher than like a 60-point guy.
Think so? I'd be super happy with that.
Right players with him, and finishing some of those opportunities, and he'll learn how to do that.
Yeah.
Do you want to toss a letter grade out for the goaltending so far?
A+. It couldn't be better, honestly. Yep.
Perfect. Moving on.
Yeah.
Defense.
That's an easy one.
What do you think?
Defense got to be A, B+ at least. It's given the roster that they have. It's they're not giving up a ton every night. There's even nights when they're outshot. Usually they're keeping the other teams to the outside most of the evening.
Did you notice Hanley much tonight, drawing back into the lineup?
No, I never notice him much, which is good for that player, right? He's pretty inoffensive in a good way.
We're doing such a good job of pumping everybody's tires after a win tonight. Goodness gracious.
I mean, we can dump on Huberdeau if you want. It's, okay.
I don't think there's any point in beating that door down anymore.
Yeah, we'll leave him alone for now.
Letter grade for offense.
Cool. C- at best. Yeah. It's, there's been some bright sparks this year, but 18 straight games of 3 goals or less, and up until recently, one of the worst power plays in the league. Yeah, that's probably a fail.
Fair enough. If you're a teacher writing a note home to parent/GM Craig Conroy, what are your notes?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I think just what I said. Stick with the long-term plan. You know, your team is performing better than what most people would have expected this year, but you should have your eyes on the prize, which is building a contender over the next 3 to 5 years, and not trying to build a scrappy underdog team to be slightly better this year, because I don't think that's going to get you anywhere.
I'm trying to think back. You would have a better pulse on it because you were still like covering the team more in 2015 than I was. I was still in college, but does it feel like a similar vibe to that year? Like,
It's
do you think the
getting-
temptation,
yeah.
are there lessons to be learned from the temptation of running with a promising young group, knowing that there isn't someone that you were looking at being a bona fide star like a Bennett, a Monahan, a Gaudreau?
Yeah, it's, it's starting to feel a bit like that. It's still very early, that said. I mean, you can have one bad month, and then in December, January, and all this talk is moot. But if they can continue to, have third period comeback wins and unbelievable goaltending and rookies coming up and playing better than you thought, it'll be fun. But yeah, definitely don't suddenly think the rebuild's over. I think some of that kind of happened in 14-15, where they started trading for the Dougie Hamiltons of the world, although I did like the trade at the time, but they lost Matt Barzal because of that. Who knows over the long term if that would have been a net plus or minus, but yeah, it's just be really sensible with what this means long term to the team. It'll be, if they do make it to the playoffs or they challenge for it, it'll be unexpected, it'll be fun, it'll probably indicate that some of your young players are better or coming along as you saw fit, but don't start spending any of your future capital quite yet. You need to keep building that up.
So that's a perfect homestand. They're gonna hit the road now, heading east. So, I mean, this could be a turning point. I don't know if this Minnesota game will be a big one that we cite whichever way this season goes at the end of the year. But this road trip, every team they will be facing has a sub 500 record right now. So if you want to talk playoffs, take advantage of these, because this is something Calgary has not been great at doing the last couple of years. So Sens Monday, as of now, they've lost 4 in a row, facing Vancouver tonight. Travis Green's club, they're doing a big line shuffle today, trying to get some goals going. And Travis Hamonic is also coming back into the lineup. I always forget he's in Ottawa now.
I was going to say, I don't know if that's a plus for them, but good for him.
So you got Detroit Wednesday, another team that is very, what are we?
Yeah.
No one knows.
Yeah, Detroit.
They've got some exciting young guys.
Yeah,
like it's always going to be fun to watch on Outsider, but we do not know what Detroit is trying to deliver this year.
Yeah, they're kind of stuck in a failed rebuild, I think, and they're going to have to go back to the drawing board after this year.
Yeah. So then Friday, Columbus, a chance to celebrate Sean Monahan. He has totally found his form again. Just so many like gut punch after gut punch with the injuries. He's on pace for a career season now. He's got 19 points in 19 games. First time since 2018-19, he's been scoring at a point per game pace. And that was also the last time he had a 30-goal season. Yeah,
it's just a complete renaissance for him. I thought he was done a couple of years ago, honestly, just because he'd endured so much, and it looked like it'd taken such a toll on him that he was never going to be that top line player again. We'll see. It is early, but it's a huge credit to him that he stuck with it and seems to have, gotten back to a top line center, which is crazy.
Columbus has also won 2 straight right now. They're playing Carolina tonight. Then it's a back-to-back against Pittsburgh on Saturday. Oh, Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Poor Pittsburgh. No. Yeah.
It's I know, and the reports are like everybody but Crosby is up for grabs. It's
Yeah.
giving like Arrested Development. We're having a fire sale.
Yeah, it's been quite the disaster this year, and they're kind of stuck in no man's land too. They're trying to make a go of it with because they still have those legacy stars, and Crosby's still a player. But I mean, it's just years of spending the future and having been a contender for so long. It erodes the foundation of your assets and your team, right? And it's at some point you got to pay the piper, and I think they're pretty much there.
Yeah. Yeah, back to back two. So we will see the goalies presumably switch up a little bit on this road trip. Like guys got to rest at some point. But Calgary is 1-1 in the second half of their back-to-backs this season. They beat Philly and Edmonton in consecutive games in October as part of that historic start to the season. And then a couple weeks ago, they beat LA 3-1 in Calgary before hopping on the plane and falling to Vancouver 3-1, which was Dan Vladar's last start before tonight. You really can't fault him for on that one. That was a quick turn.
Yeah, that was a scheduled loss.
Yeah. Then back at home Tuesday for the Columbus rematch. We're sure to see another Johnny tribute that night, a chance for Flames fans, for Blue Jackets fans, hockey fans in general to celebrate all that he achieved. I'm sure the Flames have something special planned. I still love what they did on opening night. That's still one of the moments of the season that really sticks in my brain, highlighting or spotlighting different places on the ice where Johnny scored milestone and straight up iconic goals. So that'll be a tough one, but an important one for fans on both sides.
Yeah.
And a little bonus to wrap up the road ahead. December 1st is the Hitman Teddy Bear Toss game. If anyone wants to get on out there for that. They opened up press level seating. The tickets are going, but generally like 16,000 plus crowd. Hitman just added a Penguins prospect actually, and Tanner Howe. There'll be a new goal scorer this season because London Hoylett with the Vancouver Giants, where Jaden Lipinski has scored the last two for the Hitmen. Switch it up. Yep. And then Tuesday the 4th is when the Four Nations rosters will be announced, and we'll see if Mackenzie Weegar has done enough to earn an invite.
That'll be
I've been looking at projected rosters, and there's only a couple that have him on there as a potential 7th D, but I don't know, do we really think Evan Bouchard has done that much more than
he's not had
Mackenzie Weegar to earn that spot, because he seems to be on all these rosters.
Yeah. Well, what about Wolf maybe going too? That would be interesting.
I mean, you look at those rosters, I mean, there's still some good goaltenders there, but it's like, when
maybe third goalie.
How much is enough? I mean, if there had been something like this a few years ago, maybe like 2019, would a Jordan Binnington after his run have earned consideration? I wonder how much resume is enough to really give some of these guys a run at it.
I guess we'll find out pretty soon.
Yeah. Anderson on Sweden also. Yep, that's another really good point, another one to watch for. You have to think that Wolf is going to get that national team experience again at some point.
Yeah, if he keeps this up, absolutely. No brainer.
Yeah. Cool stuff. So they'll be hitting the road. A good place to go watch, since you can't head on down to the Dome, is to go hang out with our friends over at Richmond's Pub, the home away from home from all of us at Afterburner and Barnburner and the whole Nation Network family. Great food, daily specials, TVs everywhere. They're ready for game day, and they have the NFL VIP Experience contest on now until the end of the month. Get over there for Thursday Night Football. Get your name in the draw for your flights, hotel, $500 in cash, and tickets to watch the Dallas Cowboys. So that's on Thursday. You got to be there in person for your chance to qualify, and they'll have the grand prize draw early December. And the whole gang is going to be back there on December 3rd to watch the Columbus game and, share in the moment and do Afterburner live from there. Your chance to see Jarrett's Pinder and company in person.
That'll be interesting.
But yeah, that'll be a good one. And that's our road ahead right now. Saw a comment from Dougie in the chat. How's Basha tracking? Hurt right now.
He's hurt. Yeah.
One of the most important players on that Medicine Hat Tigers roster this year. But man, they have just had no luck with injuries. They just got Ryder Ritchie back. He's a wild prospect. Byron Ritchie's son. But Basha otherwise tracking really well. He had a strong start to the season before this, even if the wins weren't necessarily there all the time.
20 points in 17 games, I think, before he got hurt, which is pretty good. But yeah, we'll see once he gets back.
Of course, they've got Gavin McKenna, which is always reason enough to tune in.
True.
With that squad. Oh, he was leading the whole CHL the last time I looked. He's up around 46 points already. Unbelievable.
Yeah,
unbelievable, that guy.
Yeah.
All right. Let's take a look at what's on tap here with our buddies over at Bet365. You had taken a look at what's kind of going on here the rest of the day with the odds. Can you take me through it, Ken?
Yeah, I'm just picking on the Oilers, right? They got Rangers. I think that's tonight, right? So it's this was
that's later tonight.
Betting on goal scorers. Of course, they have Draisaitl and McDavid, or decent bets, but you also have a lot of pretty good players in the Rangers shooting on Skinner, who's or whoever's going to be in net for Edmonton tonight, because I've heard they're looking for another goalie again for good reason. So might be a good bet to pick one of those Rangers goal scorers.
Yeah, guys who love to fill the net. I thought Lafreniere was surprisingly one of the best guys when they were down here in Calgary.
Yeah, he had kind of a slow development given where he was picked, and the hype for him as a prospect, but it looks like he's kind of starting to find his legs in the NHL, so good for him. They have the over-under here too. That's what's on the screen. Yeah. So I don't know where I would go on this game. It's like I said, it's if you're thinking the Rangers are going to light up the Oilers, maybe take the over.
I can see it happening.
Yeah.
I don't know. Or Bouchard will fully prove that he deserves to be on that Four Nations team.
I've seen some highlights of him this year, and I have a lot of time for Bouchard, but he's gliding all over the ice. He's doesn't seem terribly motivated, so he definitely has to pick up his game. Well, a lot of the Oilers do, given their expectations, but he's definitely one of those players.
Yeah, and I'll say worried about a guy moving his feet is not something that you tend to worry about with Uyghur.
That is true. Yeah,
100%
every night.
Yeah. Also, Zach Hyman, is he like this generation's Chris Kunitz?
Well, there was a funny mention, I think, by Gould in the chat today in the Discord server that I run, that I think Kirkland has as many points as Hyman so far this year or something. So it's like, yikes. That's a rough. I mean,
is it a yikes or is it a feather in Justin Kirkland?
Way to go, Justin. Yeah, there you go. Maybe we'll just say, good job, Costco. That's good on you.
Hit the SCO. All right. That is brought to you by our friends at Bet365, the world's largest sports betting platform. You can open an account today and bet on a huge range of markets. Download the app and use code NATION when you sign up. So whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Any final thoughts from you before we take a look at some questions, comments, and concerns?
Nope, just having fun with it.
Just vibing.
That's right.
All right. Let's take a look at some of these. The first one from Richard. If Kaprizov and Wolf were playing, do Flames still get the W tonight? I'm tempted to say yes.
Sure. Yeah, I think the play. Kaprizov is a game-changing talent, but maybe Wolf is too. So let's just say it'd be the exact same outcome.
All right. Got that one short and sweet. We got one more here from Peter. Is Conroy going to utilize his $19 million cap space sooner or later?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's I think he's going to have to judge where the team is with that, because for me personally, I think they should weaponize their cap space and take some future picks to allow some teams to dump a player or two. But if they're vying for the playoffs, he may not be less interested in doing that this year. So we'll see.
I was curious, like, is there a lot of precedent set for a team that's kind of knocked on paper before the season starting doing well? When we see teams kind of in this position, is there a lot of precedence for general managers taking some of those crap contracts to get some picks and fill space? Or do we see them just generally roll with it and try to succeed in that year?
It's pretty rare, so you don't see it too often.
I'm
where
trying
a
to think,
team,
like Arizona,
with like 20 million of
when they
space.
were at Arizona, they ate a ton of contracts.
They did it all the
They
time.
were never in this position where they were
Exactly.
actually doing well and in a playoff spot.
Yeah, it could be unprecedented. So that's why it's so hard to see what's going to happen, right? Because they went in, kept their powder dry, which they should have going into this season, expecting not to be a great team. Now they're in a playoff spot, top of the Pacific. So I'm sure there's lots of teams that would like to leverage that cap space, but right now I'm sure Conroy's like, nah, we'll just leave it be that the team's playing well, right?
All right, well, we'll wrap it there and take the moment to celebrate, Flames fans. Like, who would have guessed that this would happen? You have the best start in franchise history. You got a 4-game win streak. You sweep your homestand against some pretty dang good teams. We just saw Dustin Wolf with his first career shutout. Now we'll see if we can see some more magic from them on the road. Then
Speaking of
Barnhart Boys back on
unprecedented,
Monday.
is the Flames picking a goalie and developing a goalie, and the goalie may be turning out. Last guy was Mike Vernon, I think. So yeah, it's kind of fun. But yeah, I'm gonna go out and shovel my driveway for the 3rd time tonight after this.
I'm going to be at the airport at like 4:30 tomorrow, so
Oh,
I'm going to go to
God.
bed.
Yeah, that's not gonna be fun.
Yeah, we'll see how good it is getting up to YYC in the morning
Ugh,
to go to
leave early.
Toronto.
Yeah, good luck.
But anyway, on that note, thanks for hanging out with us tonight, everybody. Enjoy the win, and we'll see you all next week.